Look, I always wanted to be an artist, but like, you see those people online who just seem to have all the talent, the ones who get it on the first try? That was never me. And that has been the story of my life. My journey has been much less, smooth than I would have liked. I thought about quitting for good twice, pursuing art, that is. Once in college, and again when I realized my passion project wasn't going to get any attention. I almost let go of the one thing that has followed me since drawing on my bedroom walls. So this isn't a story about all that I've learned and all that I've achieved. This is the story of how I failed and how I started to hate my own art, and how hitting rock bottom in 2024 finally forced me to pick up the pen again and find my way back. So, like I said, art has always been it for me. The one guiding goal. Well, aside from maybe being a Power Ranger, or Spider-Man, or a Pokemon Master. Very unrealistic goals, all of them. Honestly, I think my earliest memories are literally just me and my sister drawing on my bedroom walls. Sorry, Mom. I was born right when the Disney Renaissance era was like in full swing. My mom was a huge Disney fan, so I had the whole catalog and I ate it all up. Lion King, Little Mermaid, you name it. I was instantly drawn to animation and cartoons and wanted to make that kind of visual story. Naturally, the first things I was obsessed with drawing were Pokemon. I was born in the 90s, so I didn't stand a chance. Dude, the Pokemon craze was something you really needed to be studied because that was a wild time. I was right in the target audience and I drew them little monsters every day of elementary school. As I got a little older, I started obsessing over comic books, specifically Mark Bagley's Ultimate Spider-Man, and of course Akira Toriyama's Dragon Ball Z. But what kid wasn't into DBZ? Everyone I knew liked it. It wasn't even an anime at that point. It was a cartoon, so everyone saw it. But yeah, little Dan was like a fan art machine, and I was proud of everything I made as a kid. It's not like any of it was amazing or anything, I just had a blast sitting down and drawing my favorite characters. But then, I got into the internet. Suddenly, you could dive into places like DeviantArt, and I started seeing artists who were just, unbelievably good. I never saw anyone that could draw like the people online could in like real life. And that's when the high of just making something started to turn into the low of comparison. I started to see all my flaws for like the first time, and that's when the real challenge began. It was like a power scaling thing just happened to me. In high school, I was about the same sort of skill level as my peers that were interested in drawing, besides maybe a select few. I came out of high school knowing exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to be an animator or a comic book artist. That has never changed once. I was driven by the desire to make stories that people were genuinely going to love. So I went into animation school. And on that very first day, the professor hit us with a statistic that felt like a gut punch. Out of our class of over 30 18-year-olds, maybe 3 to 5 of us would actually graduate and get a job in the industry. If we were going to make it, we were going to have to study and practice hard. The classes were tough, and some of the professors were even tougher. They really pushed us, which I respect now, but at the time, it was demoralizing. You quickly realize who the super talented ones were in the class, and when it came to those end of project critiques, I realized I was definitely in the middle of the road. I wasn't bad, but I definitely wasn't in the top 5. I knew I was going to need to do a lot of work to land anything. I didn't have that natural talent that some of my classmates seemed to possess. And throughout the year, you would end up seeing that people would just drop the course. As it went on, the class just kept getting smaller and smaller. It was like the freaking class trial elevator in Danganronpa. Like, who's left? Who's still here? The feeling of struggling just to keep up, that's when I almost quit for the first time. That feeling of fighting an impossible enemy. I remember this specific moment. I had to 3D model this stupid lock, and my professor had looked at it and then went, "Are you even trying?" I was so completely fucking crushed. I just sat in my truck and I had a full-on breakdown. Because that was the worst part of all of it. I was trying. I was trying really, really hard, actually. I ended up calling my mom. Yeah, that's how busted up I was about it. I called Mama. And she convinced me to come back home and try like a local college for graphic design. During this animation course, we had to take a few graphic design classes, and I took to Adobe products like a fish took to water. I had experience with computers and it just clicked, I guess. I was able to pick that up fairly quickly and was easily the best grades I was making. Looking back at it, the professors at the animation school did cram a decent work ethic into us, and even though they were rough, my classmates and I turned into like a tight group of friends. We were always hanging out, working on gesture drawings, and helping each other just improve. I learned that even if you didn't feel like you have it, having other artists to hang with on the, same wavelength, it's different. That community kept me afloat, and I miss it a lot. After surviving that animation school gauntlet, if you call that surviving, I had a new and more refined view of my own strengths and weaknesses. It was a tough switch, not all my credits transferred, but I went for it anyway. I still took drawing classes just for the love of the game. My biggest challenge, the thing I still struggle with today, is the need for reference. I just don't see clear images in my head, to be honest. I know some people talk about wanting to make their art look like it does in their head, but I just don't got that. So I rely heavily on photos, 3D models, and even action figures to get those angles and perspective right. It's a crucial step. I need that visual foundation before I can just start to push the figure forward and add like my own style to it. This need for a solid foundation is probably why I'm also become so rigid about my tools. I've tried 3D modeling and a lot of digital drawing tools. I just don't seem to get into them. For me, nothing holds a candle to ink pen on paper. And honestly, in the age of generative AI, I think that process, that handmade object, is more valuable than ever. AI prompting is like ordering food from a fast food menu. Most of the people using it don't even understand what they are making. I mean, obviously, I don't like it. Maybe you feel the same way, I hope. But the rise of AI art makes my commitment to the traditional process way stronger. When I put an ink line down on paper, that line is final. There's no Control Z to erase my mistakes. It forces me to commit, and that commitment to the craft is something I want to share. It's about the philosophy behind the art too, and one of the biggest lessons I learned from my second college was the idea that we shouldn't be glorified printers. The goal isn't to simply recreate reality, but to question the why behind the art and use it for self-expression. That is to say, I like to have an art style. I'm less into realism. After college, I got that big boy graphic designer job, and that's when the real slump started. It's funny how a paying job in the industry can just drain all the joy out of your personal work. I found myself doing art for myself less and less, and when I did, I got frustrated with what I was just spitting out. I also fell right back into that comparison trap. I kept looking at other artists online. I was so jealous. I spent years being a C student who had to grind and struggle and fight for that C, watching others just get straight A's easily. Which, side note, when you are online, you don't get to see the blood, sweat, and tears that goes into another artist's work, or even what sort of headspace they were in when they were working on it. If talent is a real thing, I don't think I had it. I believe in hard work and persistence, but at that point, with my art, I gave up. My side projects died, my dreams felt crushed, and I felt like no one cared. I walked away from art for a few years. Then came 2024. I went through a big breakup with my fiance, and I can tell you there is nothing like hitting rock bottom. I was completely miserable and utterly lost, and once you're there, you have to ask yourself one question. How do I become happy again? I had a lot of time to think. I decided I was gonna throw myself back into art, but with a new rule. My goal was not social media first. It was just about getting back into a sketchbook, drawing for myself, and just enjoying the process again. I even started going to art meetups like the Urban Drawing Meetup, and honestly getting involved with other artists was something I forgot I needed. Because most of my life, I was hanging out with other artists all the time. In school and college, I was always surrounded by artists. And then I spent a decade or so when I was just really the only art guy around every day. No knock to my coworkers, but artists or other creatives think totally different. They're always up to something. The energy is just infectious. This wasn't about the likes anymore, the social media rat race that I had poured a lot of time and effort into before. It was about creating something handmade that was truly mine. It was about remembering the motto I learned years ago: art comes first. After a few months of doing that personal work, I started to feel that spark return, and that's when I came to a hard realization, and that is that I want to finish my graphic novel. I need to finish it, but the problem is, even if I did, no one was going to read it, because I had absolutely no platform. I hated the thought of doing the social media grind, especially Instagram, where your stuff just doesn't get looked at in like a sea of content, but I needed a place to build a community. With all the chaos around TikTok, YouTube seemed like the safest, most stable bet. A place where I could just share my art, talk about media, and hopefully connect with people who are interested in the same stuff. Or, you know, going through the same struggles. I want to be transparent about my flaws, my struggles with references, and my belief that hard work is enough. And that brings us to where I am now. So, what does this hard-won comeback arc actually look like? What am I working towards right now? Well, right now I'm focused on, combining my strong, bold line art with heavy filled in blacks and using vibrant alcohol markers for color. If I had to put a name on it, I guess is my take on American comic book art style. I reference a lot of artists like, the dynamic energy of Todd McFarlane and Mark Bagley and the sleek line work of Joel Jones. My art isn't exactly theirs, but I'm pulling elements from the artists I love with all my heart and fussing them into a style that's truly mine. It's still growing, and it's still not where I want it to be, and that's okay, for now. Because my goal is simple. It's self-improvement, because as an artist, you never really stop growing. I want to complete the graphic novel, but more generally, I want to make stuff that people just enjoy. It doesn't need to be my magnum opus. I'm just gonna let that happen as it happens. Ultimately, I want to use this channel to entertain people. Yes, but maybe my larger goal is to also be that voice that tells you, go and try and make the thing you want to make. My journey is proof that you don't need to be naturally talented. You just need to have the persistence to get up after those breakdowns. I'll leave you with a piece of advice I got from a friend recently, and it really stuck with me. Would you rather regret trying, or would you rather regret never trying at all? Take the risk, shoot your shot, enjoy your life. I'll be here sharing my mistakes and my progress every step of the way.